Hello, world, and welcome back to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Deal, with my main man, Pots and Pans, Tyler Ardron. How we doing today, brother?
Doing awesome, man. I'm super excited because this is going to be a fun episode. So what we got going on now, Justin?
Well, as you can see, a lot of fun today. We got the Randy Johnson shades on, so we got Ty bringing some heat. I got the backwards hat, so we're a little bit more relaxed than usual. And we have an awesome guest. We have something a little different planned for you guys today. We have our good friend Ryan Harbinson with us.
Fellas.
So Ryan, we've known for a while. He has a pretty awesome background of a lot of eclectic things, from being an entrepreneur and owning a gaming company, to working on games and development, to working in marketing and branding, to working now in staffing and recruiting. So you've seen some shit. You've definitely... You've been around the block, as they say.
As I say, a jack of all trades, right?
Yeah, but not a master of none. You are a master of quite a few things.
Well, you know the whole saying, right?
I actually forget it, but yeah,
so
what is the rest of it?
A jack of all trades is better than a master of, of none is better than a master of some. All the way around.
Master of none is
Yeah,
a jack of all trades. Oh God, I don't know. Yeah. Now you're mixing me up.
That's right. But it's better to have.
Look it up, guys. Google.
It's better to have. It's basically what it really means. It's better to be
good at
in a little bit than
all over the place,
than in
right?
one thing only.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought it was the opposite.
Well, if you think about conversations, right? If you only knew a lot about one thing, you can only talk to so many people. But when you're very
But I thought
eclectic,
the saying was like, don't be a jack of all trades, be a master at something. Or something.
A master of one is better than a master of none.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Finally full circle. But the point is one of the things that Harb is a master at is kind of understanding some of the craziness in the world and seeing through some of the agendas. So we are going to have a little disclaimer on this episode. We are going to talk about quite a few topics. The opinions and the things that we're going to share are not representative for any of the companies or institutions that we're all part of. These are solely
We're going to plant
ours.
some seeds today.
We are going to plant some seeds. We're going to get you thinking outside the box.
Get people
it's
thinking.
okay to ask questions.
As it should be. And it's
100%.
okay to have differing opinions, and it's okay to have heated exchanges as long as we can all respect each other at the end of the day and learn from it. We don't have 100%. To agree on everything. But
I think that's something that's been lost in the last couple years, right?
Oh, God.
Is that
1000%.
if you're on one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle,
divided.
You can't have a conversation anymore, which is not true. I mean, if we look back even like 10 years ago, there were such things as that 30% where everybody kind of agreed on things. Mm-hmm. And now you can't even discuss
There's
anything.
no debates anymore.
It's just weird because, there might be something that I think of some way and you think of a different way, and you might hit me with 12 or 15 points, and maybe two of those things made me go, never thought of it that way. And it changes the way it is. And now it just feels like everybody is in echo chambers and everybody is on one side of whatever their belief system is. And it's not just politics. It's just kind of life in general, it feels like.
Well, it reminds me of that picture. I'm sure we've all seen it, where two people are standing on the opposite side of numbers, and one person sees it as a 6, the other sees it as a 9, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're both correct from the perspective they're bringing it, but it's tough to create that common ground. And I think that's where we are.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and a big thing you were talking about, right, was the divided thing, and you said not just politics and stuff, but I do want to talk about politics.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're, to your point, right, if you're on the left, whatever the left is kind of pushing, you're gonna push, right? And if you're on the right, same thing, right? You get kind of pigeonholed in that whatever the right's saying, and I think that is wrong in that, and I think more people are coming to kind of see this. Is that like, just because maybe I'm on the right or maybe I'm on the left, but let's just say, I'm on the right. I do think, say abortion and stuff like that. I do think women should have a choice, right? So I'm allowed to have,
different opinions, different views.
Right? It shouldn't be just, whatever the right's saying is what I say, or whatever the left is saying is what I say. And that's what a lot of people.
And I think a lot of that comes down to we are creatures of habit. We all know this, right? Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is also how we acquire our information, right? So, I'm a big YouTube guy, right? So I watch a lot of people on YouTube and even clips from like major publications and shows and stuff. I watch on YouTube because it's just easier and faster, right? Mm-hmm. And what I tend to do is I want to watch, I want to watch Tucker Carlson, and then I want to watch Bill Maher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I want to hear what they're both saying.
Yeah, differences, right?
And it's important to have that. Now, at the same time, I think we're all aware that a lot of that is a distraction because, the only way you're going to really change things in the political aspect of the world is to get involved into local politics.
Right.
And who wants to do that?
Oh, no. I was asking. I was like,
it's
no way.
It's just, being a mayor of a town, and like a lot of people
Does
hear
not
that
sound
like,
glamorous.
I want to be the mayor of the town, but what people don't realize a lot of times is that the way the governments are set up within those small towns is that the city council president is actually running the town, and the county commission or the head of the actual city who runs like almost like the CFO, they're running the town, and the mayor is just kind of
the face
and a piece.
Right.
So the mayor doesn't really have any. I mean, they have some power and some say, but it's really what the agenda of the city council is. And a lot of people don't know that. And like, there's a lot of people that have been in councils and have done a lot of work, and they just they get yelled at for like, this tree stump has been in front of my house for 2 years and nobody's moved it.
I've been in those meetings.
It's and I've been on the other side of the aisle where I've kind of yelled at the council for stuff too, and it's just
fix that light.
It's just who wants to do that? But that's really the only way that you can do it. But at the same time, if you're a big rebel rouser and you're shaking stuff up, they'll let you win. But there's going to be a conversation when they shut the door and they say, this is the way it is.
Got to come back a little bit, buddy.
I mean, they'll do things to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
so
we've seen it happen. We've seen people flip a lot on that. I mean, look at like people like Dan Crenshaw out of like Texas. He was a big, Freedom First guy, and now he's very agenda driven and very, give all this money to people that I didn't approve to. Pay all this money to other countries when the countries in the hole.
Right.
So let's jump into that. With like the whole Ukraine-Russia conflict and the amount of money. I think we're
give us your thoughts.
$200 billion we've sent over there.
I don't want to go too crazy into it, but I mean, we got to look at what happened before, right? Like people were involved in Russia and Ukraine for a long time. The president's son was involved with that. I'm sorry, everybody. It's factual.
I mean,
like,
it's clear.
It happened. Like,
it's clear.
I mean,
There's proof.
I mean, there's proof there. There's a lot of interest there. There's a lot of minerals in the Ukraine as well, too. And, love or hate the other guy, but nobody fought when he was in office, and there was no wars at all. I mean, the military-industrial complex is a real thing. We got warned by Eisenhower in the 40s before he did. We found out that the way that this country makes money is through war. I mean, we have literally been
the contracts are insane.
Of war since World War I.
Right.
Yeah. So we've never not been in war.
What happened? Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
The left was always pro, not war, right? They were against Vietnam. They
switched. The parties have switched immensely.
Right. And then also, with that, right, they were always the one too with the whole science thing. They didn't believe in the whole vaccine end of things and all that back in the 80s and the 70s. Now we're today, and it's like it flip-flopped in that, to your point, right? And before, with Trump and presidency, love him or hate him, we weren't in war during those times.
We were not.
And now, when we do have a Democratic president, we are in war, for the most part. I mean, we're not at war, I guess, technically, if you read the news and everything. We are funding the whole thing.
Their government. We are funding their pensions. Meanwhile, we have homeless everywhere in this country. The vets are still being just left out. And it's like, look, I get it. There has to be a time where we become kind of isolationists to figure out what's going on because, we've heard this. I know it's kind of cliche at this point, but Rome is burning, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Like, we think it's okay.
The whole flip of the parties. I'll give you my opinion after, but I want to hear yours.
I don't know what triggered it, honestly. I think that people have just changed. I mean, when they hear conservative and they hear liberal, right? I think that what we see, and the majority of everybody is 70-30 either way, right? And it's kind of what we talked about down the aisle, right? So you're either like, I mean, there is such thing as a conservative liberal. Yeah. It is, then they don't all want to do these agendas that are whatever they're pushing. Like, they're like, I'd like my money and I don't want my taxes to be high. And
I think that's most people.
And most people, so like, and then most people don't really care about what you look, how you identify, what you do. Like, do you pay your taxes, and are you an asshole?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Right.
I mean,
good person. Yeah.
obviously there are exceptions to the rule, and there are places where people will suck and know it, but the majority of people don't really care. It's just like, if you come into my business and you look a certain way or you do this and that, does your credit card work?
Right.
I'm not going to make you leave.
Yeah.
Just when you preach to me and you force your delusion on me
and leave my kids alone.
Oh,
Yeah.
1,000% there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And what I think is, on a little bit that played into this whole flip flop, is, following the money. Right.
That's it.
I mean, when you have campaigns paid for by pharma companies, by,
foreign entities.
By all these different companies and entities and everything.
And look at just what recently happened.
They're handcuffed.
They followed all that money from BLM and went right to the Democratic Party. And these people bought houses and paid
that were mansions. Yeah.
I mean, that's,
you gotta follow the money.
In white neighborhoods on the coast.
Dude, that's real. That's not like conspiracy or we don't like this certain people. They tricked everybody. And
I think 60 companies were paid through that none filed taxes. So
they
were just given hundreds of thousands,
crazy,
if not millions
well,
of dollars.
It's also like, all the money in politics as well, right? That is undocumented and that's just being put into the politics, which is, pushing these agendas. Like lobbyism is like ridiculous. Like the one thing that Trump wanted to get rid of was, after you are in an elected office, you're not allowed to lobby for a company until like 5 years after. Then like you're basically non-compete.
Yeah.
But like think about it, right? Like if you got somebody that's in there and then they lose and now they have all this influence in thing, like the original reason for lobbyism in the early days of the country was because literally people didn't have a voice and there were so many things going on that it was a way to make people in the politics aware of things that were happening that might not be seen. Now it's like big pharma is there. I mean,
yeah. How many commercials do I got to see about, Ozempic?
Dude, the fact
all this other stuff.
The fact that they can advertise drugs on television.
Other countries aren't
allowed to advertise cigarettes for some reason is just mind-boggling. Like it's just, I mean, there is no cure anymore, right? There is only treatments, right? And they have many opportunities to heal people all day, but there's no way, the main culprit of all this is sugar. Sugar is like destroying everybody. Like
back in the
cancer
50s,
loves sugar, dude.
Back in the 50s, they did a study, or whatever it was, 50s or the 60s, they did a study on sugar. And what they came out with was supposedly they locked these dudes in like a hotel until they basically set the data to where they liked it, the sugar companies, and they linked heart disease and everything to saturated fat and fats of meat and eggs. And then you're getting
now. And
people of that age group still, like, because I talk to them about this stuff, I'll bring it up and say, no, I eat 5 eggs a day.
It's the cool,
eggs are the best for you. Same with meat.
It's the Kool-Aid and bologna generation.
Right.
Yeah. That's what it is.
But they actually believe it. And you can't kind of blame them because now we have the internet, right? So we can kind of find all this data.
The food pyramid was the source of your food pyramid was fucking bread.
Right. Right. But that's all they had to go off of. They weren't able to go to the internet. They trusted,
which is the carbs is killing everybody too,
right?
And like, what the big thing is, like we're switching over to all the alternative milks, right?
Yep.
Like I'm not a big dairy guy. I haven't drank cow's milk in like 10 plus years. I do almond milk, and when I do milk at all, but like they're pushing oat milk super hard. Dude, oats are terrible. They turn into sugar. So now we're right back to the sugar element of everything as well too. And like, it's just insane how many people still drink soda, which baffles me, right? There's literally nothing in it.
The FDA is a joke.
I mean, the FDA is an absolute joke.
Once you travel, you realize.
You look at Europe.
Europe is, dude, I mean, M&M's here and M&M's there. It's a totally different can.
I don't even think they can sell Skittles and stuff over there, I heard, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't buy Skittles or nothing.
Well, you see, look at I was going to say, look at the spike in all these mental disorders for kids from the early 90s. It's aspartame, it's high fructose corn syrup, it's corn syrup,
Red
it's
fiber.
dye and all that
all the
shit.
colors that end in a number, hydrogenated everything, anything that is naturally or artificially flavored. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does naturally flavored mean?
Yeah.
Because why? Because I naturally made it in a lab, then it's allowed. You know
And then
what
it
I mean?
says 80% juice, 10% fruit.
Strip
I mean,
all the
my-
fiber out of
you know what my
things
favorite is?
naturally.
Now made with real cheese.
Yeah.
Well, what was it made with before?
Yeah,
Right.
you all want to know.
Right.
You know, and it's like
wanna
the
know.
importance of drinking water. I mean, it's just mind-boggling that nobody drinks water.
Well, for
at
the-
all.
I think now
Yeah.
definitely
It's getting better.
it's gotten better. I mean, you see everybody with their Stanleys and all that
That's
stuff.
all- dude,
That's a
that's
whole
mind
nother-
control, buddy.
yeah.
That's
It is,
all
but
mind
they
control.
but it is working in them drinking more water. Because now, 10 years ago, when you walked around, you didn't see people carrying water
And
bottles.
coffees
know.
and sodas and
Yeah,
Gatorade.
and same in
No,
schools.
it's Gatorade.
Gatorade, 70 grams of sugar in a 20-ounce bottle. You're
But
like,
now even in school, like, because my son's in 8th grade, and like they bring water bottles to school. Like when
good.
I was in school, it was like go to the water fountain
Water
just
fountain,
to just to like spend some time outside out in the halls.
It's crazy to think about like what we drank as like kids. Like, you know, like I was like
iced
Hose,
tea,
baby,
dude.
right
Wawa
out of the
iced tea,
hose.
baby,
Wawa-
2 liter.
Dude, I used to crush those raspberry
That-
iced
the
teas,
raspberry?
bro.
or the half and half. Yeah.
Homie, let's go. And then, you know, chocolate milk was my boy right there, bro.
Yeah.
I still couldn't open up that carton and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fucking-
Get
I
two
remember
of
when we
them,
had
dude. I
like
would
the
get two.
boob bag. It looked like the
Yeah.
transplant.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, oh, here you go, kids. Are you thirsty? Yeah.
Here's some chocolate
sugar.
milk.
Here's sugar. Like Capri Suns. Like that is like ridiculous.
And pizza sticks.
But they throw the word organic on it now, so doesn't
Yeah,
that?
but have you seen
Yeah, right.
have you seen the conditions for what an organic
No,
element
I'm
looks
joking.
like?
Ah,
You know,
yeah,
and that's part of it too. It's like, look, everybody, I know it's hard because the days get long and the things go fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like part of it is understanding that you have to just pull back, and we talk about this all the time. Come off of cruise control, pay attention to what's going on, right?
Do a little
And don't-
research.
Do a little research,
Yeah.
and don't be like obsessed with like, you know, becoming the future you. Like the key to it is loving and accepting who you are right now, and then having a plan to continue to grow, right? And part of that is meal prep is super easy, you know?
Yep.
A crock pot will get you 3 days out of the week, man. You do that on Sunday, you have some crock pot, you throw it in the fridge, now you got lunches. Now you're saving money too, right? And you can go to places like that don't buy Tyson. Don't buy Purdue.
no. You see the Purdue
Ready?
factories.
Here's the rule. Here's the rule.
It's like a
Ready?
cage with 20 chickens in it.
Yeah.
Anything that's advertised on television, don't buy it.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what we used to feed the dog all the time? It was great. It was the best. Blue Buffalo. Was watching a random thing, saw an advertisement for Blue Buffalo. My wife and I looked at each other and said, ah, shit, who bought them?
Yeah.
Oh, they got bought by Kellogg's or whoever the freak, or
Well, the thing with dog
Procter
food-
and Gamble or
yeah.
Nestle or some shit. So we don't use them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with dog food though is, all dog food. Dogs have. I just listened to it on something. Dogs are like more. Their lifespan has like cut down immensely than it was like in the 20s. Also, hip
Here's some
problems,
Alpo.
cancer.
Here's some Alpo in a
disease,
can.
tumors.
Oh yeah,
I mean, think about
they're
it.
eating junk food.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. That food, bagged food, and listen, I'm to blame too. I give my dog the bagged food, but that bagged food is sitting on a shelf for who knows how long.
Preservatives and
That
shit.
would be like us eating Pop-Tarts every
Well, that's
meal
what
of
it
the
is. You're
day.
basically feeding your dog McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, like Pop-Tarts, whatever.
So I mean, there's alternatives out there for that, but even for like in general, I mean, you just got to read the labels.
Yeah.
You just got to read labels.
We gotta take accountability. That's the biggest
And
thing.
it's what it is.
You gotta take
Don't
accountability.
feed your kids, Eggo waffles. And I know it's hard. I don't have children. I get it, but still, there's alternatives out there. Like
Kodiak protein waffles.
boom, there you go,
Power cakes,
right?
baby.
That's it.
But whatever it is, I mean, you can get your kids to like fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Well, you have to set the example. So that's one thing I will share, right? So
100%.
as I've gone through this whole health journey, the two things I've realized, really three. One is that the vast majority of adults are dehydrated, as we said with water.
Extremely dehydrated.
Two,
and
we're
inflammation.
Look at your pee color.
Inflammation is killing everybody.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's inflammation from
They
all
just
the
came out with
shitty
an article
food.
with that. I just saw that.
Yeah.
Like on inflammation and everything.
That's the big killer right now.
Yeah.
Continue.
Real quick, two, the vast majority of people are protein deficient. You should be eating roughly 1 gram of protein per pound that you weigh. So think about that. If all you have is 2 chicken breasts a day, you probably got about 35 grams of protein. and that's it. You're probably not eating a lot of other good things. And 3 is what a killer alcohol is. I mean, energy,
Dude,
finances, time, your whole body, like everything. I've broken down just financially how much money we've saved since I've kicked out alcohol.
It's poison.
And it's 1,000%
It is
poison.
crazy.
It's poison.
And like
But they can advertise on TV, but they have all these Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 illegal drugs.
I know.
But that's what the weed, and I'm a big marijuana advocate.
Well, the weed thing
and
is
it's
a totally
one of
different
those.
avenue, dude.
Well, but I'm saying how that
just-
was demonized for forever, and alcohol is constantly pushed, and now it's becoming more illegal. And they're realizing, like, I think of all the veterans, of how many of them battling PTSD,
Right.
How many of them turned to the bottle, right, and then committed suicide. Where if they were able to smoke weed and chill
some
out
edibles.
and actually,
Well,
right.
And on top of that, now, and in Colorado is kind of spreading, going down that rabbit hole is psilocybin is coming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's coming.
Yep.
Right? So what happens is that we're in this battle of multiple lobbyists fighting against weed in general. Because if weed finally becomes legalized, then
federal,
then what happens is that hemp comes back into the picture.
Yep.
So
Which
goodbye
can produce everything.
goodbye wood,
Yeah.
goodbye cotton,
Yep.
goodbye oil,
Right.
gone. And I can grow a field of hemp to make shirts and paper.
Yep.
They can build houses out of hemp now.
Dude, the hempcrete is better and stronger and lasts forever.
Yeah.
Right?
There's actually a guy locally that's in our harvest group. He has like the first machine on the East
Boom.
Coast that can produce
Hempcrete.
those hempcrete.
And it's amazing. I mean,
That's kinda
this
cool.
country was built on hemp and marijuana. I mean, Washington was a hemp farmer,
Yeah.
and then they outlawed hemp. And then in the 40s, they reinstated special permits for farmers to grow hemp because they made a lot of rope out of it for the war, right? So they know the importance of it. But going back to the alcohol thing, right? The alcohol thing is crazy, right? Like, it is nice to get drunk with your friends and all that. But
The next day sucks.
I mean, the next day sucks.
Yeah.
And like, I took a little break about, 3-4 weeks off and like just
Oh, you feel way better.
The clarity. Yep.
Yeah.
the clarity of it all too. And like the just not wanting to do it anymore. It's almost like a game, right?
It's empowering.
Like especially because we do a lot of events. We go out to a lot of events and it's
You're
just
always in
booze.
bars
It's booze,
and-
man.
yeah.
It's just booze.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like, an internal mindset of like just having a club soda lemon lime in a rocks glass so people think you're drinking or whatever it is and just watching it. And it's just like, I think it's like a special occasion thing now for me more than anything, honestly.
it's
I put very firm rules
That's how
to
it
it.
is.
That's kind of moving forward. I was going back and forth with having a dry year or having an actual rule.
See,
so,
I don't think it's necessary to have the dry year because it
Agreed.
is
It's
fun.
moderation.
well,
it
then
is
I don't
fun.
have a problem. So it'd be one thing if I had
Correct.
a problem.
Correct.
But I do, like my father and I, a lot of our relationships since I've become an adult and bought a house and don't live at home anymore.
Go get a whiskey
Is
or whatever.
well, it's wine.
Yeah,
so like
wine.
we
I
drink
love
wine
wine.
and we
I
golf.
found out that wine is my favorite.
Yeah, and wine, and it's the thing that you can
It's the
sip
best.
on. It's
Yeah.
a little bit better for your body. I mean, the sulfates and everything, but whatever.
Yeah.
It still got
But,
sugar and
you know,
stuff. But as long as you're doing moderation, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
anything, right? If
Yeah.
as long as you do moderation in it, like you're all right. I mean, it's when you do have a problem that
Yeah.
it becomes an issue.
Of course.
Every night that you're doing
Now,
it,
do you notice at the networking events now, and I'm not saying this from a place of judgment, just as an observation, that now that you're not drinking, do you realize how, and it's probably, I could use a better word, but I'm just going to say
Sloppy?
how sloppy, yes. Like most people are. Because when you're inebriated too and you're having this conversation, everybody seems normal.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like so clear and I'm drinking my water and I have like my missions and goals in place that I'm just chasing, when I have conversations with some of these people, I'm like, holy shit, is that what I used to be like? Is that what
Yeah.
I sound like? Is that how I presented myself? Like,
Yeah.
do you feel like you notice that more where you kind of, people you've always liked, and it's not that you think less of them, but there's just a different viewpoint of them now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just being able to see it. I mean, you think that you don't realize how much your speech slurs, even when you think that you're not, right? And then
Yeah.
also things that you say.
I mean, that's why
Yes.
people get
you have
DUIs.
a little more machismo to just throw
you're
it out there,
you're
right?
a
Yeah.
little more loosey goosey
Yeah.
and shit, and then you go home and you're like,
Should not have said
probably-
that. Should not have said that.
and I say, whatever. fuck
Yeah.
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 Now let's
Yeah,
get back
yeah.
to the topic of because I don't know why this is a controversial statement, but just America first, right? Like I really look at a
how
lot
does
of
that
the things
become
that are
something
going
that's
on,
wild?
and I look at it as leadership, right? Like if I haven't created the best version of myself, how can I go out and then help other people? And I look at
Correct.
that from the country, like. we are in ruins compared to where we've been before, right? We have like 20 illegal immigrants living.
234,000 people are coming over the border
day,
every
right?
month.
Every month. Oh. But so we have that. We have. I
And
mean, look at the democratic cities, right? That are just in ruins.
New York City.
But your sanctuary cities, you should want these people, right?
Yeah.
Which they did.
Oh wait,
until
you
they
don't
did
have
it.
enough room for everybody now. You know why? Because there's rules and regulations to come here. We are not against people coming to the country.
Yeah, our
Do it
ancestors.
the right way.
Our ancestors have done
There is a process, and there is, we want people that are going to contribute to the country. Like, how
and appreciate
angry
our values.
How
That's why they
angry
came
are
here.
the people that were on the list for 10 years and then got accepted to come over here and now are legal citizens and went through all the
test.
Well, I've been saying it's a slap in the
They're gonna
face
do
to all the
yeah.
immigrants who did it the right way. I mean, honestly, we all have
It's
super
insane.
eclectic networks.
Yeah.
And some of the hardest workers and most successful people I know
1,000%.
are migrants,
Yeah,
right? Like they've
1,000%.
come from, or it's
Yeah.
their kids who are the second generation
well,
and
they
know
say
the struggle of what
it's
their
an
parents.
immigrant mentality, right? So they
Yes.
come in and they want to
Our country was built on it. I mean,
100
all of our
100%.
ancestors.
And no one's
are
gonna
immigrants.
deny
But doing
that.
it the right way.
Exactly.
Right? Like we
Right.
didn't just open the back door and all these people flooded
Dude, they're
in.
giving cell phones and fully loaded debit cards to
$1,000
these people
gift cards.
I was
coming
just
over.
gonna say that,
And
yep.
also that when they're grabbing them, they're like, okay, we got you. We'll see you in 10 years at your court date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, 10 years.
Yep.
Where we only had $700 per family to give
For
to
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Oh, let's
we
talk
gave
about
$600
Hawaii.
stipends for the during
Has
the
anyone
pandemic.
forgotten
What does he
about
get-
Hawaii?
What do you
Seems
got on
like
Hawaii?
ever since The
What's
Rock
your
and
thoughts on
Oprah
that?
pledged all that money, it just went away.
Hawaii is not a mystery. I mean, they want to create a smart city. They've been trying to do it for many years. The mayor, or it was either mayor or the governor of Hawaii, like Freudian slipped and said it, like during one of the press conferences after everything burnt down. Right? There's a
How
lot
crazy
of
is the Vegas cop was also one of the police chief.
Oh, that's
now
not a
over
coincidence
like,
at
what?
all, right?
Yeah, from the
Oh,
Vegas shooting that
And
nobody
what
ever
happened to the
finished.
Vegas shooting? So this guy who's in his 60s just rolls up with gear and goes up and
1,000 pounds worth of ammunition and guns. Nobody noticed.
and nobody says
Whole bag.
anything. Dude, it is false flags are a real thing. Okay, the Gulf of Tonkin is a false flag incident.
That's proof.
Which is why
There's proof on that.
which is why we got into World War or into Vietnam.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's all part of the military industrial complex as well. Like these things are set and happen in motion, and they do it on purpose. It's mind-boggling to think that people that are part of your own country would do things to push an agenda.
Yeah.
And that's always the
Yeah.
thing, right? I think we're
That's-
all so good
seriously.
natured that we're not brought up to believe that people can possibly be that evil,
And screwing us.
willingly, right?
It's happened many times.
Yeah,
And,
and everything in life.
But think about this, right? So like, let's pretend that we don't think anything went awry in Hawaii. Let's just ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Why were these people not allowed back in their houses? Why was it deemed a crime scene? Why all of a sudden were drones that were going over grabbing footage taken out of the sky? Why all of a sudden was everything that kind of had a blue tint not burned? Why were fires stopped at the edges of things and cars in the streets were not burned? Why were they given $700? Why was The Rock and Oprah asking people for money?
That was
when they're freaking billionaires.
Are
yeah,
you
that pledge
kidding
word,
me?
man. That
When
was
you're
such an
billionaire, dude.
entrapment.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And it's like, also, let's look into Oprah's like ties into Maui and all the everything that she has owned. Also, the fact that she was very involved with Weinstein and grooming these girls that he had relations with, and nobody cares about that either, right? So there is a group of people that help everybody out and change the narrative and go from there. I mean,
switches. And then, they go from one to the next. Like you said, what happened in Hawaii? No one's talking about it now.
yeah.
Well, even with that too, with a lot of that. So let's go again to
I mean,
a lot of like
how
the
long
people
ago was
like Oprah. That was last year.
Yeah, I mean,
It wasn't that long ago, right?
It's
Like,
been about a year
8
max.
months, maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
I don't think yeah.
Well, let's talk about all
where's
these
it?
folks.
Where's it at? Where's it at? No,
Haven't
let's
heard
go.
anything
Let's
about
go.
it.
Yeah, I don't even know
All
what
these
happened
people,
with it.
all these people,
To be
still
honest.
all these people still have no homes, right?
Yeah.
Who is now getting that land?
I don't know.
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I haven't heard about it.
Who's getting that land? Are the insurance companies paying them for their lost damages? Where are the fire marshals that are going in and looking at the cause of those fires? How come there was no alarm system that was turned off? How come the water for the actual fire departments or in the hydrants was shut off? Why was the fire controlled and then in the next morning brought back?
Questions.
Just
asking
Yeah,
questions.
Just asking
We
questions.
need answers. We need
That's
answers.
We need
Well, with a lot of
answers.
these beachfront properties too, because the other big thing anymore is this climate change, right? And we look at all the very wealthy people who talk about it, and they all
And they're
own
all
these
in jets.
beachfront properties.
flying
They're
jets all
jet
day.
setting everywhere, which they show. That the emissions from a jet is, I think, like your
Insanely
car
more.
in your lifetime,
Yeah.
you won't even touch a percentage of one flight.
Right.
So it's like, so what is it? So are banks dumb enough that they're giving loans to beachfront properties and new construction on places that in 10 years aren't going to exist?
Are going to be gone.
So it's just asking questions. We know insurance
asking
runs the
questions.
world, so the insurance companies wouldn't back all of these properties being built
Oh, no.
in below sea level
Nope.
or at sea level areas,
Right.
right?
They're still funding buildings in Houston that were past the barrier wall that they said, do not build past this barrier wall. You will get flooded. And they're like, will we?
Yeah.
Will we?
Yeah.
And guess what happened? Houston was not a huge city. They tore that barrier wall down. Now, Houston is the fourth largest
That's
city
huge.
in
Yeah.
the United
They keep building.
States.
Yeah. I was in
And they keep
Houston
building.
3 months ago.
Yeah.
It's a big flood area.
It's huge. Yeah,
Oh,
you're like, let's go.
It's a big flood
Tyler
area.
hears that and he goes, cha-ching.
So like these are the things that I'm just asking.
Well, here's the
questions.
thing with the whole, climate change is, the Earth has been in existence for one, we don't know, but millions
That is-
of
that is-
years,
that is the correct
right?
answer. We don't
So it's kind of, but we can assume it's probably been millions of years.
Yes.
So if we break down the average span of a human, let's just say for easy numbers, you're at 100 years. The car was, engineered in the early 1900s. So like, are we to think that in 120 years of the Earth's existence being millions of years, that we are really affecting the climate?
Have you also looked
that
at
much?
population maps on where everybody lives?
I just
Have you
heard
ever
a
looked at
great
this?
thing on
Have
this.
you looked at this? It's like the coastlines, and then
And
it's
then-
like
Yeah, right.
That, and I was just listening, I don't know if it was like Cambridge or Oxford, wherever they have those cool debates. Ben Shapiro was on one recently, but this Russian guy was talking about that with climate change. And, he was kind of making the point that, he was saying in Britain, like they're only responsible for like 2% as a
I saw
country
that. Yeah.
of the entire
the U.S.
emissions.
is like one of the greenest countries in the world.
And he was saying
Yeah.
but the point was that
Look at like
India and China.
Look at China.
Look at India.
and the poorest of the population.
So what are we going to
the
change
people who
anyway?
are
Just
gonna-
us.
Right, because he was like in Russia, he was like, people don't have bathrooms. Like they literally have the outhouse. He was like, so how are you going to convince the person who's literally in a little old school outhouse with a hole? And I think he says like the last 10,000 years of, visited,
You ready?
just sitting there. And like, you're trying to convince these people of why they should care.
Well, they just came out and said
about-
cows are like the
Let's-
biggest.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah,
cows
that's-
can't fart anymore. We gotta stop
Let's
that.
talk about how that started, right? And the false narratives, right? Because remember, it wasn't always called climate change.
It was a Gore. Didn't he start with the global warming?
It was called global warming.
Yeah.
And
Now
then
it's
they
climate
did
change.
they did test groups. And
Al
they
Gore,
didn't-
dude.
they
Man,
didn't
bear,
like it.
pig.
Yeah, God, some super cereal. So let's talk about this. Ready? Because a lot of people don't know about this kind of shit, right? So polar bears can swim in the water for 20 miles. Okay, so when they show that polar bear on the ice cap, and they're like, he's stuck on the ice. He's not going to be able to get back. He can swim, guys.
He can
pretty
swim.
far.
But we've been
He
through
hunts-
ice ages.
he hunts
We've been
in the
through
water.
extreme
Yeah, he
hots.
eats seals and stuff, right, yeah.
Over millions of years,
moves.
the Earth cycles.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Why
right?
do we think we're so naive to think in our 100 years that we're making that much of a change? We are a little speck in the existence of the Earth.
I
Yeah,
agree. Now,
agreed,
on the
yeah.
other side of the coin, right? So this is kind of what we talked about earlier. Are there ways for us to be cleaner and make things better?
Sure.
Yes, I'm all
Yeah,
about that.
sure.
But it's
right?
not Tesla's.
Yeah.
But it's not Tesla's because hi everybody.
Oh God, have you seen?
how do you
Have
think
you
those
seen in
batteries-
Africa those?
the
mining.
cobalt mining. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like a city.
Well,
of
we're
people
so
just
entrenched in
bang,
slavery, but we don't talk about that. We have modern day
Oh my
slavery.
God, it's insane.
nuts.
Well, let's.
And
I wanna
by the
talk
way,
about-
China owns those.
I want to talk about that. But let's go back to the climate change stuff, right? So what people don't realize is that Al Gore was pushing the global warming
Yep.
thing because he was the inventor with his partner. The name of their company is called Gore and Blood. That's not fake.
Wow.
That's real. They were the proponents for the climate change software index that would measure your carbon footprint. It was his company. So
Interesting.
they would then push
A little bias there.
they would
Follow
then
the money.
Push this into companies in order to check your global what's it called? Your
Footprint
index, your
or whatever.
your
Yeah.
global footprint, your warming
carbon
footprint.
footprint.
Yeah.
Carbon footprint.
Yep.
So there you go. Okay, so he makes a movie. He wins an Oscar for the movie. Of course he does, because it's all
His
his
people.
cronies in Hollywood,
Yeah.
where they're all taking kids away and having their way with them and doing all their
Oh,
weird
God.
shit. You know, all their adrenochrome.
That was who was the one comedian, the English guy that he went
Ricky
up.
Gervais?
Oh my God, when he just destroys
Just come
everybody.
up. Don't thank your God. Nobody cares about your shit. Okay.
Yeah, you're so out of touch with reality.
Yeah, you have no idea what
You're all
talking
afraid
about.
of Weinstein. We know.
Yeah.
We know he owns you.
No,
he-
Farrell.
that's-
Yeah, because he's coming after them all, dude. Yeah, but see, that's part of it. Look what they're, what it is now. It just feels like it's a look at me, look what I did. I did this. Aren't you
Virtue
proud
signal.
that I did
it's a moral-
this?
it's a
Aren't
moral
you proud that I
standing
did
ground.
this? And then guess what? The
Yeah.
box offices are in the trash.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even tell you the last time I saw a
Here's the
movie.
thing,
It's
right?
all remakes.
Here's an example, right? So a movie that got a lot of big flack was the all-female Ghostbusters movie. Okay, I watched that movie.
Any good?
It was okay. It was fun. You know what the problem was? It's not Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay? If you want to make a movie that is highly, referencing or, influenced by Ghostbusters, make a new series. Make a new thing. And it's like, oh, obviously this is kind of Ghostbusters, but it's like an all-female.
Like a little homage,
And
but-
homage, and, maybe it's called I don't know, pick a name. Like
Spirit
Ghost,
Busters.
Ghost Patrol or whatever
Yeah,
you want to
whatever,
call it,
right.
right? And it's like, you kind of people would have went and saw that, and it probably would have did a lot
You can't
better.
do a remake
But
with
you call
different
it
types of people.
Ghostbusters.
like Twisters now that they're coming out. I was like,
Oh,
does
what
that
do
mean
you-
there's two, not one? Is that the big difference?
Yeah, I
There's
saw
two
that
at the same
commercial.
time.
That was on the Super Bowl.
This year,
I was like, what?
This year is the year of is sequels, tons of fours.
Well, they can't.
Panda
They can't
4,
come
all that
out.
stuff.
They can't come out with new ideas because they get crushed by the moral police.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they got to play it safe, and they got to let's do it
That's
number
why
4.
Disney's in the crap where you keep doing all these
Well,
woke
have you
remakes.
seen
People
have
are
you
like,
seen
we
the
don't want
Pandaverse episode of South
that's
Park?
great.
They're
That was
like,
great.
make her black,
Yeah.
make her gay.
Yeah. Cartman was Kathleen Kennedy.
Kathleen
Yeah.
Kennedy. And it's like,
Yeah.
maybe we should put this guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah. It's
and it's
crazy.
like, why don't you write a good script with good character development,
Yep.
and I'll watch your movie.
Yep. Yeah.
We
it's
don't
gone to
need
shit.
a prequel to Willy Wonka.
Yeah, which I heard that one sucked.
I thought there was already a prequel or something. I don't know. They keep.
No, they
doing
did a
those,
remake with Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
This was
well,
this was like young Wonka.
Johnny Depp one was kind of good.
Yeah, because the one was the original was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, and then
Well,
they
that's
went
the
to
book.
Willy Wonka.
which nobody reads anymore.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
That's a whole other story. But
That's a whole other
I think part of it too is understanding your dollars speak. Okay,
Yeah.
whether you agree or disagree with the whole Bud Light thing, guess what? That affected their
They're now
stock.
sponsoring
Yeah.
the UFC.
The UFC.
Well,
Shane Gillis.
yeah.
Shane
Shane
Gillis
Gillis, yeah, I was
is
just
now
gonna
a
say,
sponsor.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? That is not
They
like
did a 180 on that one.
well, you know what that is? Like the Shane Gillis thing is not like everyone's like, oh, I can't believe Shane Gillis is a Bud Light. People go, oh, those dummies that did the worst marketing campaign of all time just paid him a lot of money. Good for him.
Yeah.
And think about it, right? It's not that a trans person was endorsing Bud Light. It is that your audience is frat boys.
yeah.
No, your
I mean,
audience.
that's a college beer.
Look,
It's a college beer.
If
You
they
get Bud Light.
did the same, if they did the same campaign with
Some dude
White
from Ohio
Claws,
State.
no, I'm talking about
Oh,
same
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
or the trans person.
Yep.
If they did it with like
Perfect. White Claws, right.
White Claws
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Trulies or something that was more of a broader audience.
Yeah.
Nobody cares?
No,
Agreed.
no one says it's
You're
word.
picking Bud Light, dude.
Yeah, you got Kid
And
Rock
I'm
shooting
like,
your
I
beer
You're
now,
the
dude.
audience.
You got Kid Rock
I
shooting
hate
your
the
beer.
idea of cancel culture. I just think because what people don't realize, to your point, when Bud Light, when
200 people get
boycott
mad.
that,
Yeah.
But not only that, like everybody thinks, oh, we're going to stick it to the CEO and the CFO. No, you know who gets laid off? It's the delivery drivers. It's the local
Well,
brewers.
yeah.
It's the people in your own community that
That's
you're
what
really
people
screwing
don't
over.
realize. So, like,
Right.
Bud Light is Anheuser-Busch distribution is a franchise, right? So each one of those facilities, there's a couple in South Jersey, a couple in Philly, all the way through the country, a lot down south too. Those families are usually multiple generations that have run those facilities. So when a boycott like that happens,
They're the ones that
Anheuser-Busch does feel that on their stock price.
Yeah, on
but
their
what
share price,
happens
yeah.
is that nobody's buying they're buying direct, and now they're a distributor. Nobody's buying that beer from them. So
I tried to really explain this. I felt like Target was the better and the easy example for people.
Target
to
is a
understand,
great
right?
example.
So with Target, my
That
whole
your
thing,
dollars speak.
Yeah, well, it does, but again, so let's say you boycott the Target, they lose a ton of money, they close down that local branch. Let's say the one in Washington Township. So now the 100 employees that they have, nobody took those dollars and then started to do Martha's on Main Street, who sells all the children's clothes because it's a little more expensive because it's American made and it's local. We didn't take those billions of dollars and dump it into Martha's business, so Martha could now grow to hire those 100 people.
Correct.
So now we have 100 people in our community who are out of jobs, and it just makes everything tougher for everybody in the community.
Well,
and we lose sight of that piece. I think it's very important.
Yeah, and I think people are not, and we go back to the America First thing, right? People don't want to buy things that are a little bit more expensive to support the country. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, we've seen those orange ads for that shop like a billionaire. That is a Chinese company that is making all that crap that is just cheap Amazon knockoff stuff, and they spent a shit ton of
had
money
to be like
on the Super Bowl.
Millions.
200 million at least.
Oh,
I'm sure.
I mean, it was so much. And now what people don't realize is that they'll produce those ads for the Super Bowl, right? And once they produce those ads, that is their new ad campaign. So now they're running that ad on regular TV from here on out.
Yeah.
So like if you were sitting there watching that Dunkin' Donuts commercial with the most cringiest shit of all time, you're going to see that. That is their new ad campaign right now that they're running.
Right.
And it's going to be all over the place.
Why did they, not to get off topic, but why did they do that commercial? I mean,
there's like a storyline.
Is it a Boston-based company? Is that why they went?
They are
okay.
Boston. Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's they went
but why
hard
does
on
Dunkin' Donuts
Boston.
need to do that?
They don't. They don't. I mean, just keep it easy.
I saw it as a flex. I was like, damn, they spent a lot of money.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
Either
Matt
that
Damon?
or like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck,
J-Lo.
It was like
all
the
those
year
people are
of
just that
celebrity
Boston.
commercials too. This was the year of celebrity commercials. So many people.
Well, influencers, that's the biggest thing anymore.
But think
right?
about it, they're influencing the way that you think. Again, get off of cruise control, right? Understand ask questions. Look, you can utilize the algorithms to your advantage, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on Instagram and you're on Facebook, you should probably not be on very long. Okay. If you're on TikTok, you should probably delete it. But you got to realize that that scrolling is bad for your brain, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier before we started,
dopamine
right?
hits.
It's all dopamine hits, right? It's ruining the attention span of people.
Yeah.
And before we went live, we were talking about this, right? Yeah. So the problem is that the best content right now on social is 7 seconds, right? And because of that, I saw a video the other day. It was a kid playing FIFA on Xbox. He had an iPad next to him, and he was on TikTok or Instagram, and he's every 7 seconds he's playing the game, and then he's
I see it. Like I said, I have an 8th grader,
and he's flicking.
They don't watch TV.
They don't watch TV, right? So
they don't watch TV.
It's affecting the cinema world. Dude.
Yeah,
like, movies are not like they don't understand.
They're bored. They don't like. Bored. They can't watch a full episode.
Plots, like you zoom in, you zoom in, like it's a tight zoom on like this ring on this end table. You're like, oh, they would not catch that,
right?
They would not. They can't watch films. Like myself, I can sit down. I love movies.
Yeah.
I'll watch the extended cuts of The Lord of the Rings. I'll watch all 3 in one day. Let's go. They would not be able to handle a Lord of the Rings. No way in hell.
Classic.
And it's ruining the way they process information. I mean, everything is instant gratification. I mean, not to sound like old men here, but we had to wait for shit.
Yeah.
We had to wait for
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Remember, like when you
There's
had
no
to,
same
like,
day deliveries.
bro, you had to like
Listen,
fill
I'm a
out-
culprit now too. Like when I'm ordering something, I'm like, damn, I wish I could get it right now.
Yeah, 3 days. I
Yeah.
remember when you had to
I
like
mean, like,
fill out
honestly.
like a thing in a magazine and you'd put down the check in there and it's
Yeah.
like wait for 6 to 8 weeks for delivery.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like the
it's
now
wild.
CDs you're talking about.
Oh,
You're taking it
let's
back
go.
there, big dog.
Now.
Let's go.
Now
Now
that's what I call
13.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had like 13. Now they're up to like 186
Yeah, it's
or whatever.
Oh, they still make it?
Oh yeah. Now
They don't make CDs no more.
well,
Well, it's probably just like
It's like a
yeah.
playlist or
playlists on like
something?
Spotify or
Right,
something.
right. That's
but like,
crazy.
so let's talk about that, right? So this is a big thing that people aren't realizing, right? Because so much content and just back catalogs of multiple things is so digitized. What happens when those servers go down, right? So the it's the Video Game Institute out of like LA, I think is what it is. They're a museum too. They did like a 2-year study and they found out that 86% of titles that were made from 1965, which is really when the industry started, right? With the MIT guys making everything.
Yep.
Only 12 to 13% of the games are digital. So almost 85 to 86%
Yeah, physical.
are not, you have to have the physical copies
Right.
to play them.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is licensing issues. Also, the industry has changed immensely. We had the great buy of 2005 when, big publishers were scooping up
Buying each other.
independent developers and bringing them as first party and then running them into the ground and then they would go out of business, right? And so there's that. There's also licensing deals, right? So like Warner Brothers wasn't in the game for a long time. Now they're a publisher and they own the rights to X amount of games. Like, how did those games work when a publisher is out of a developer's out of business? It was published by EA. It was licensed by Warner Brothers. Where's that game going to come out? It's probably not going to come back out onto the markets. I mean, are they ever going to make Over the Hedge for Xbox on the digital markets? Probably not. It's owned by DreamWorks. It was a movie title. So like it's the same with film too, right? Film is huge. I mean, think about all the Netflix stuff. Like none of that stuff is really on physical. I mean, they release Stranger Things and things like that, but like
No
a
one
lot
buys
of that's
it.
not.
No one buy. Best Buy stopped selling
Look
DVDs
at,
and
look
Blu-ray.
at look at Spotify. How much music is on Spotify that people have never put out a physical thing? Because it opens up the doors for creators to be able to put stuff out, but that stuff is not
Well,
out
as
there.
a consumer, like I'm not complaining because it's cool. I get anything
What's that
at the
instant
minute I want.
It's
gratification
instant
again?
gratification, man.
Right.
Click play.
But,
and it plays.
Oh, Michael Jackson. Boop, boop, boop.
But it's interesting because it makes me think of the whole, which Rogan always talks about it. I watched the Netflix special, The Youngest Driest Impact, where they believe that there was multiple times that we were hit by asteroids, and basically it was a reset for the Earth.
Tons of resets.
And that back then we might not have had that much this kind of technology that we have today. But it was a kind of technology that we don't know yet.
So
And a say global catastrophe where we get smashed, that all goes away. Now think about it like if it happened today.
Correct.
If we were hit by 4 asteroids and the whole Earth just
and the servers got
starts
exploded
over.
and everything starts over.
who would know who you are? Who would
Yeah,
know
true.
what this computer does? Who would
Exactly.
know what these big towers are?
And then,
in
well,
cities?
it's very similar to there's a movie that came out in like the late 70s, early 80s with Sean Connery where it's based on the Wizard of Oz, but it's a new civilization that read it wrong in the way that it was written, and they thought
Right.
it was a real story.
right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do we not know that all the stuff that's in all the like Egyptian stuff isn't them telling stories?
yeah.
Right.
Like
Who
this is their theater
Yeah.
system, right? So here's another thing, right? So going back to that point, so all of the technology that was there once before was probably made out of quote sticks and rocks,
Yeah.
right? And they were able to harness the stuff, right? So if you look in the pyramids, right, they're baffled that there's no torch markings.
Yeah.
Right? It's because they understood that you could utilize copper and certain crystals and you could create light into these places, right? They had full systems. I mean,
How do you think they made? So let's go down that rabbit hole. How do you think they made the pyramids? Because that stone that's from that pyramid, it's like miles and thousands of miles up where they got it from.
All right, so
they'd have to go down the whole Nile River.
It's one of two things. Either one, they had technology they were able to utilize that we don't know, right? And they were able to utilize
and the cuts,
magnets,
precisions of cuts.
So think about if you could use the sun, right, and you could also have magnets involved because you could float rocks, put them down, get them.
I've heard that. Yep, I've heard that.
That's one way. But if we look at the cave drawings, obviously it's the angels that came down. So the aliens were here, right? You know, we were a slave race because we had elements that were not available for other planets, right? You know, we're going down crazy, everybody. So get ready.
Let's go, baby. That's what I was working towards.
So I think a lot of it is this, right? So gold is a huge conductor of electricity, right? And a lot of people think that gold wasn't available in other ways. Also, people think that a lot of these extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings were light beings, right? So we're carbon-based, they were light-based, right?
Yep.
What's the biggest producer of light in our galaxy? The sun,
yeah.
right? So they were utilizing gold as opportunities to push through, which is why gold still has value. Today.
Yeah.
Right? That gold value is because of where it is. Now, a lot of it is if you look at the cave not the cave drawings, but the actual like drawings, the hieroglyphics in Egypt.
Pyramids and stuff, yeah.
Look at the size of them kneeling down and look at the size of the guy in the chair. He's huge.
Right.
Okay. If you also look back at all the old stuff with the Greeks, right? They had technology they were using. I mean, the human animal hybrid stuff is starting to become a little bit more mainstream now, more than ever, the term itself. And if you look back at a lot of the stuff in the old drawings that they have, like there's like fishmen, right? We've seen this, like top is fish, bottom is like people. We got centaurs and all that. Now that we see, it's like, what was their eugenics programs like back then? What were they able to do? What do we not know that they didn't know, and vice versa, right? Yeah. And it all comes back to the secret teachings of all the ages, right? It's a great book by Manly P. Hall. So Manly P. Hall was a philosopher in the 50s, and he's got a lot of talks online, and he's a great person if you want to start your journey down the rabbit hole. He's really good.
Harb also has a spreadsheet with this all listed.
I do.
Email him for it.
Yeah, info will be in the show notes.
The other thing too is, Alan Watts really good too for the philosophy side of things in the 70s. But what we've seen is that there is a lot of knowledge that has just been hidden. A lot of it's in the Vatican. Right? I mean, the Vatican has...
They say that downstairs has some things in it.
Yeah.
Tons of knowledge down there, right? Yeah. The Roman Empire never really fell. It just became Vatican City, right? I think a fun part people don't realize too is that when all that stolen treasure was taken from the Nazis, it was just going in the front door and then out the back, and now it's church property, so now it's not seizable anymore.
Yeah.
Right? But one of the things that they show is that the pyramids are actually buried. Like they're...
goes down,
way bigger,
right?
And that there was like a cliff, and then it comes down, and there's a whole society down low.
I've seen that too,
dude. Using that as an example, they dug up the Eastern Island heads. They have bodies, right? There's also all this archaeology that has been just swept away, which is going to the point of view that documentary. What's his name?
I can't remember.
Whatever. He's really good. He's been on Rogan a couple times. He's got wild stuff. Hancock.
Yes. Yep.
He's great, right? So one of the things that we see too is,
well, they're using LiDAR and they're going through these, like the Amazon and everything, and they're seeing what you're talking about, where there was cities like underground, using that LiDAR to, see, or they're going through the Amazon and seeing like pockets of areas where there was civilization. It looks like there was civilization. How was that pocket built?
Yeah, I mean, there's also like the technology we don't know is stuff that Tesla was pushing, right? Right, and Tesla understood that the Earth. Well, first off, the Earth is a living organism. We have to understand this, right?
Yep.
And part of that is that it has a vibration and it has magnetism, and they were utilizing that magnets, right? And when they were building these things, I mean, we could all be self-sufficient in a matter of days. But there's no money in self-sufficiency, right?
Well, also, did you see the thing recently where they said your carbon footprint, if you were to grow, like have a vegetable garden and everything like that, is like 2.5 times more than someone who doesn't? How does that make any sense?
That's probably just.
But isn't that what the trees do though?
Right. the trees
Aren't the
and
trees naturally do
vegetation and
this?
plants.
Well, with the amount of trees they say, like the amount of carbon that they create,
It creates
back
oxygen.
yeah, and it's like there's so many.
It sucks
trees
carbon
that
in
it's
and
not
takes
even
oxygen out.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I mean, it's crazy because, you know, Tesla was a big portion of it too. And like, you know, when they were doing the automobile too, like you got to remember, like they had natural waste to do the automobile, right? So Henry Ford was one of the big proponents of pushing that you can run a combustion engine using, full grain alcohol. Oh, and then what happened? Then we banned alcohol, right? Why did we do that? Because who was behind that? Right? One of the main families behind that was the Rockefellers. So the Rockefellers started Standard Oil.
Which, God, looking into that family.
The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds.
Look into those families' history.
This is all the bloodlines, man. These are the
Yeah.
people that are way richer than Elon
YouTube's
Musk.
gonna love this one.
All right?
With those two name drops.
We're going to be demonetized. Luckily, we're not monetized, YouTube.
So here's the thing.
Eat it.
Let's talk about that, right? So you remember the Rockefellers were going through and doing tons of stuff over here in the United States, and they were big oil barons, right?
Yeah.
So then when the combustion engine was created and they found out that they could run it through oil or through alcohol, they helped push that ban on alcohol.
Yep.
Now, they were like, if that goes through and they still push this combustion engine running through alcohol, we will make sure that, you know, each thing of alcohol has at least 10% of oil in it so that nobody drinks it and gets drunk from it. So they still had their cards lined up.
Yeah.
But they pushed that propaganda through, and dude, imagine if they banned alcohol today.
Yeah,
What
prohibition.
that would look like.
Yeah, no go back now.
You know? So like that is
But who
all part of
knows?
it, right?
Who
So
knows?
and that was remember, it was a lot easier to do shit back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
In the 20s.
Oh,
you
my
could
God.
just, finagle this guy, finagle that guy. I mean, look at the same thing overseas, right? So
Yeah.
when Napoleon was fighting the war, right? So Napoleon had lost. One of the Rothschilds guys ran to England and said, "Hey, Mr. Rothschild, Napoleon lost the battle." So what does he do? He starts selling his shit.
Yep.
So they all look around him and go, "What does he know that we don't know?"
Right.
So they all start selling everything. And
Yep.
what does he do? He rolls in and buys everything for pennies on the dollar.
Then he comes back and sells. Yeah. I mean, it's like, the whole stock market. I mean, like, you look at all these, politicians, and it's on both sides.
How does Nancy Pelosi have so much money?
Right.
That's
and she's an
absurd.
extreme on the left. But there are, if you look at the list of top 20 and their gains, I mean, it's Democrat, Republican,
It's
Republican,
pro
Democrat.
wrestling,
Republican.
dude. They're like,
It's insane.
it's pro wrestling. One's on Fox, and they're like, Nancy Pelosi is the problem with this country, and clear. And he's like, "Hey, Nancy, how you doing? Oh, you're coming over for the barbecue next week? Oh, yeah. How the kids doing? It's just pro wrestling, dude.
Swamp.
It's all swamp shit.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
the
all
swamp
swamp.
is all them together, working together to put more money in their pockets, and they don't care about us in general. I mean, dude, middle class now, for you to be middle class,
Oh, I
in
just
this
read
country,
that. It's like six figures or something, right?
and like $40,000 or $50,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which actually, speaking of that, because obviously you're in the recruitment field as well. That's we're hiring right now and we're going through, and there is like this huge jump in for like sales reps, what the expectation of like a base salary is, and then going into commissions and residuals, and it is insane kind of where we've gotten. But you also understand because like to survive these days, it's the food bills have
It's insane.
tripled.
God.
We shut the pipelines off for gas for some reason. That doesn't make any sense. We went back into like all these deals that we went, right? We took all the tariffs
Saudis
away,
and
so
everything.
everybody left the country and went back into it. During the Trump era, Louis Vuitton found out that it was actually cheaper to make purses and their gear in the U.S. than to import it in, and opened up a huge facility in Texas.
I didn't realize that.
These are the things that are going
The
on.
glasses are from Texas.
Ford and all those guys left Mexico and came back
Respect.
to the U.S. because of the tariffs that were in place. Because we wanted to bring jobs back to the United States.
Yeah.
It's just everything's backwards for some reason.
All right, so we're getting here at the end here, and but before we get you off, I want to ask. We got some things coming up, right? We got the presidential race. We're within a year. What are your thoughts on where we're moving?
I mean, I think that so one of the big reasons that people voted the way they did was because not Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think that'll happen again?
I think that if it's an honest and free form election and people have to show their ID
Yeah, imagine that.
to vote, I think that there's no way that anybody that voted for this guy thinks that he's going to come back and kick ass in his second term.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, he's so out of touch. That Super Bowl commercial with the whatever he's the shrinkflation.
It's your fault, bro.
Yeah. Doritos. Oreos, Gatorade. It's like, do you think that's what's on the top of our
the whole
mind?
doctor thing?
That
When the doctor came out with he said he doesn't think he's cognitively.
Oh yeah, when they were trying to, because they were going to have him as a witness for the
but they didn't want to. They said he can't do it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but he can't cognitively do it.
It's just,
but he can cognitively run our country.
Yeah. It's just the hypocrisy, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if Trump's son was banging whores.
Oh
and
my
all this.
God.
And cocaine lines and $2.2 million from China.
And I'm not
crushed.
playing the politics game. I'm just flip the script. Like
even that for the questions, right? So the laptop was a lie. Right, and then the laptop exists.
Bro, he banged his brother's dead.
There's pictures.
But think about just the communication around
it. He banged his brother's wife after he died.
That's a
character right
but
there.
But to go from
like
this thing doesn't exist to it does exist to all right, well he was doing some business calls and Joe was answering the phone and talking about the weather to maybe he did receive some money.
The big guy.
How did this it's all lining up,
and then the way that it came out during the race, it didn't come out during the race.
Yeah,
and then all this stuff comes out after.
The Steele dossier was the most
Steele dossier was nonsense.
Which has been proven.
The New York Times article on Hunter Biden was suppressed, and like 23% of people said if they'd known that they would have not voted for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, this is not, ladies and gentlemen, it's not conspiracy. This is real deal stuff.
It's just facts.
And guess what? If the same stuff happened with the other guy, I would be voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Straight up.
All right, man. Yeah. Well, we're a little over time here. That was a quick episode. That was a fun episode.
I will leave you with this. Ask questions.
Questions.
Conspiracies aren't crazy when you change it to questions, right? That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, just do a little research.
And just remember that
take accountability of yourself.
It's not that crazy. And
they don't have our best interest, people. Whether it's the left or the right,
it's not.
It doesn't matter. They don't have our best interest.
And you
got to look at it.
I will leave you with this: the JFK vetoed plans to fly planes into buildings during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He vetoed that. So just so you know.
All right, Justin, sign us off, baby.
Mic drop. Continue to ask questions, and let's make America great. America first. Best day ever, y'all. Appreciate you being here with us.
Best day ever, fam.